Tones and I is an Australian pop singer, songwriter, artist, pop artist person who is, without sounding too harsh, mostly known for one song. It's just how the game works sometimes. Some artists just really lose momentum and don't put an album out for ages and basically become that one-hit wonder that they were probably destined to be all along. Some artists are really able to break away from that label and can put out, you know, all kinds of different kinds of tracks that gain momentum in different ways. I feel like Lil Nas X is a really good example of that. I think he was destined to be a one-hit wonder, to be honest, with Old Town Road, but I think he's done a really good job at marketing his kind of music and, you know, changing his style, using different tactics to gain momentum and attention through the media and things like that, which has just kept him in the limelight and is still making pretty good songs while doing it, to be fair. In fairness to Tones and I though, the song that is a one-hit wonder was a massive song that is totally mind-boggling in how it's broke as many records as it has. I mean, it broke the record in Australia for the longest running #1 song ever, which is insane. It beat a Christmas song, I think it was. I think it was was it the Bing Crosby one, I think, when I was reading about it? I think it's that one. And while you don't necessarily have to like every song that makes it into the charts, if you've got your reasons, fair enough. You know, a lot of people like to say, oh, you don't like it because it was popular, but that's not really a reason. I've never said anything about that with music. It's not a reason to not like something, so it's not really a good reply or a good argument, because it's just not a thing that I do. But usually you can see why a song would get popular or whatever. You can see what would make a song so big, but that song just confused me, man. I did not get why people liked it as much as they did. When it comes to the really poorly, sloppily put together like beat and the awful vocals, especially on the chorus, man, I just didn't get it. Like, you can usually see what makes a song so big, even if you don't like it. For example, you could see why Blinding Lights would be so big. It's got that 80s nostalgia. It's got that really big kind of like production that makes the song feel so huge, especially on the chorus. It's got all the components that make up a really good pop song, you know, standard verse, chorus, verse thing, a good beat. Even, again, like if you got bored of it or if you don't like that song, fair enough, but you could see why it would be so big, whereas Dance Monkey I just didn't get. And with that and how baffling that song was, along with the extreme negative reception that some people out there have given this album, it was very intriguing to see what would make it so bad. And that is exactly why I gave it a few listens and why I'm reviewing it today. And I may as well start by saying I don't really like this album, but I wouldn't say it's as bad as I've seen some people say it is. First of all, I still really don't like the voice of Tones and I. I'm not going to pretend that she has a voice that I personally like. I certainly don't like her voice, but it's not as bad as it was on Dance Monkey. I feel like she's actually got a bit more of a control over her weird inflections that come out at times. The nasally doesn't really pop up as much. She still can be unflattering in some places, but I wouldn't say this is quite on the level of what I expected her voice to sound like. So with that being said, it was enough for me to at least think this was more tolerable than the big single, which is ironic because I don't actually think anything from this album will get that big, and yet I think these tracks at least have better performances from her, which maybe is just a subjective thing on my part. So the track Lonely highlights a pretty important thing when it comes to like mental health and things like that. While it's pretty surface level, you can at least appreciate the message that she's coming out with here. But the thing that I didn't really get with this track was just how weak all the components were. Like, there was just nothing really standing out. There was no good chorus that stood out. There was no great verses. There was no, you know, fantastic one-liners standing out or anything like that. There was no catchiness, really. I just felt so surprised to see how nothingness it was, if that even makes sense. Like, there's just nothing really here that I can chew on. There's no interesting instrumental, there's no great melody, there's not really a hook that gets you. It's just very like there are some really odd beat choices as well. I will say Won't Sleep has this odd like quirkiness to it that just doesn't really sound great, and this is probably one of the few times that the voice comes through in quite a grating way. It really was close to testing my patience. Like I've already said, there's definitely improvements across the board in terms of her vocal control, but like it breaks out occasionally, and this was one of those moments for sure. The track West Side Lobby has a really weak, limp chorus. I just didn't catch anything from this at all. Again, it just was really uninspired to me. And then she's talking about Dance Monkey in the verses and how, well, if the song's so bad, why did it get to #1 in 30 countries? And it's just a bit like, oh, do you need to do this? I just find it a bit meh when artists like get very self-referential to all the critics out there. I just don't think you need to put it in your music. You could maybe say it in an interview or something, but you just don't need to put it in a song. It just sounds a bit whiny and a bit moany and quite bitter as well, actually. And I don't know, if people don't like your song, just who cares? Like, The track Sad Songs is where we start to really get like really bad lyrics about, you know, sad songs. I just hate shit like this. While I've said her voice isn't as bad as I expected, I'm not that keen on it. It can get a bit whiny at points. Like, it doesn't get grating and, you know, screechy, but she just sounds a bit moany and whiny on some of these tracks, which really detract from some of the lyrics, because I feel like, again, like, you're getting some interesting insight to mental health a few times on this album, but the fact that she's just so whiny in her approach, it just detracts a little bit from what she's saying. Childs plays like the opposite to that though, where there's just nothing in the lyrics at all that I can even take away. It's honestly bordering on like a Melanie Martinez song, which I just am not a fan of at all. Just like kind of like weird sort of like haunted nursery rhyme shtick that she's got going on. So it's like something you'd find in friggin' American Horror Story or something like that. And then the vocals and stuff, it's just all of it. Then the other production chops that come through on tracks like Not Going Home, with the theatrical like booms and the bass and stuff on the chorus, just remind me of like a really bad Imagine Dragons song or like an Ex-Ambassadors song that just, you know, instead of just like smoothly moving into like a big moment, it just crashes in out of nowhere unexpectedly and even undeservedly as well, because the rest of the track just didn't lead to that. And then it's just like the chorus comes in, it's like again, just unflattering, and it doesn't really work with her voice either. I'm just not keen on a lot of what's going on here. Same with Just a Mess. I mean, I wouldn't go as far as saying it's just a mess, but the chanty chorus just sounds so limp and a bit cringe actually, which is a shame because I think what she does on Cloudy Day is actually a much better version of that. It's got like the gospel inspired chorus that feels like very momentous and uplifting. It's like a big moment for the album. And it shows that she can do that kind of thing well. I just think Just a Mess is just a weaker version of Cloudy Day. You Don't Even Know My Name is bordering on that whininess again, just talking about, I don't even know what she's talking about here. She's talking about people not knowing her name. I mean, you could have fooled me. I thought your name was Moans and Cries, not Tones and I. Jesus Christ, she's so whiny on some of these songs. The weird vocal effects as well, man. Oh. This one is really bad. Let's be real here. Like this is what makes me understand the negative reception the album's getting. I mean, I don't think every track is on the level of this, to be fair. Or the final track where she tries doing this like hip hoppy rappity babbity babbity thing that she's trying to go for. That's so cringe. Like those two tracks make me go, yeah, I see why people hate this entire thing, even if I don't think every track is on this level, but these two are on that level. Overall though, it's not that bad. Like, it's not that bad. I think it's bad, and I do worry for her future and her career, and I think, you know, tracks like You Don't Even Know My Name's probably going to be the truth in a few years. I could definitely imagine people just forgetting about her completely years down the line. But when you're dropping an album like this, you're not really making much of a mark. Like, I don't really get what her angle is, where she's coming from in the music industry, where she stands as a pop singer in the 2020s, I guess you could say now. Like, where does she line up? She's the nasally, weird, odd voice that I think is too niche for a lot of people. I think too many people out there would be put off by that. So apart from that, I just don't know what she brings to the table. These songs aren't anything like you've never heard before. That being said though, I'm not going to go that low. I think it's a 4 out of 10. I think this is bad. By my standards, I don't think this is good, but I wouldn't go as far as saying it's one of the worst albums I've ever heard, which I know some people have gone as far as saying that, but yeah, I just think it's really weak. And again, doesn't really stand out. Nothing really here is unique enough for me, or catchy enough either. You know, you don't have to impress me that much. If you've just got a catchy track, I'm pretty alright sometimes, but this doesn't even have that. So yeah, not for me. Let me know your thoughts though. Would love to see what you guys think. Definitely tell me in the comments. Do have a good day if you haven't already. That doesn't make sense, but do have a good day. Subscribe if you haven't already, and goodbye.